Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Wrap-Up. Joe Samaniego here, along with Joshua Birch from Joshua Birch Motorsports. I know you just finished up British Touring Car Championship coverage. During that coverage, we have some big breaking news. So let's just go straight into it, Josh, because I feel this is big where almost any minute we're anticipating an update. Of course, a big thank you to our Patreon investors for investing in us. Calling the show, Mark, Ron, David, and Matthew. Josh, let's get started. George Russell, he won this race with a phenomenal one-stop strategy, but it was broken out. He is under investigation. Car was underweight, potentially facing disqualification. Chris Medlin has tweeted that Mercedes was summoned at 18:10 local time, so they are in there. The stewards are looking into this. Medlin is saying usually the regulation means a disqualification. Do you see a disqualification coming for George Russell?
If we think back to the last time something like this happened, which was COTA last year with Hamilton and Leclerc, when they had their barge boards, the thing underneath the car, they had worn away the plank and it was below minimum weight. They got excluded because it's the letter of the law. To go back to a fuel assumption for a disqualification, it's happened quite a few times over the years that we've had race tanks filled up to the brim. But the last time I can remember this specific detail happening, where if you took all the fuel out of the car, which is what's basically happened is, I'll read you the actual technical delegates report, which was sent out to everybody. It says, after the race, car number 63 was weighed and its weight was 798.0 kilograms, which is the minimum weight required in the technical regulations article 4.1. But after this, the fuel was drained out of the car and 2.8 litres of fuel were removed. The car, this is the interesting bit, the car was not fully drained according to the draining procedure submitted by the team in their legality documents as technical regulation article 6.5.2 is fulfilled. So when the team drained the car and weighed it and then gave that number to the FIA, they hadn't actually drained all the fuel in the car. So that's why it read as exactly minimum weight. Naturally, that would have made Joe Bauer, who's the chief technical officer down there, a bit suspicious and weighed it again. So when they did weigh it again, the FIA, and they did that on the outside and on the inside scale. So, you know, the portable ones you see on the outside Parc Fermé, and then they have a much more powerful one on the inside. When they weighed it, it came up as 796.5 kilograms, which is 1.5 below the minimum weight required by Article 4.1 of the technical regulations. Now, the last time I can remember that happening, where a team says that with fuel out it's this and it's actually less, was back when BAR had the fuel as ballast back in 2005, where they had a separate part of the fuel tank that had fuel in it and was acting as ballast. So that was lower and ergo didn't require the regulations. A bit of a grey hole in that one. So it was able to run under the minimum weight, and then fuel got added in at the last stop to that special tank. Nothing else happened here, but it's the last time I remember a fuel issue being the reason that someone could be disqualified from certainly a podium and now a race win. But it's a big one. And then many people go, 1.5 kilograms isn't a lot. It is a lot in a Formula One car as well. A couple of reasons could be because of this as well. Ruth Buscombe, who's on the F1 TV pit crew, she's a former strategist, of course, with Ferrari, with Haas, and with Alfa Romeo. She's put out saying that could be a lot of things. Something's gone wrong with a change of spec and no dry running to calibrate. No in-lap here to pick up rubber. It doesn't help either because it's a very unique track Spa. It's the longest on the calendar at 7 kilometers. So usually you see the cool down lap. That doesn't happen here. Here they cross the line and they come back through the wrong way of the pit lane. So they go backwards on it. So they can't pick up rubber. So that could be applied to it. But here, 1.5 because of higher fuel consumption. Now that could be because they were faster than expected because they were running in clean air, and they didn't have any DRS, so it takes more fuel. And also they did this crucial thing that you're going to pick up about with your question as well, Joe, is the fact that they did the one-stop strategy, which means they were out there longer, pushing harder, and they didn't have any tires to counteract the amount of fuel they were using. So it seems like a comedy of errors that nobody at Mercedes sort of saw this one coming.
Now, I have to ask this question. You bring up about you usually will have that lap where you're picking up the rubber on the track just to make the car as heavy as possible. That didn't occur. If this was to all occur where they had that normal lap, would that still be able to get them above that 1.5 kilogram? Or is that still something else where, because I just feel like this is getting to the point where we're talking about tenths of a second making a difference. Every little bit makes a difference.
So what I have here is a tyre pickup. Now this is for the British Touring Car Championship from their test day. Now these rubber pickups here, this is marbles, and they get thrown onto the side of the racetrack throughout the Grand Prix. So as the tyre wears away, the bits of rubber sort of clump up together and get flown off to the racetrack. Now these little bits they look quite light. They are quite light, but when they're cut together like this, they actually form quite a bit of weight. So it's like a feather difference between them. So these pickups that you see here, I've got a large clump of it, and also it smells of rubber as well. Well, I mean, that takes me back, actually. It smells like a bike shop. That's really good, actually. But yeah, it's just petrol head for you. But these pickups as well are all around the circuit. Now, Spa's 7 kilometers long on a cool down lap. So if you go around picking these up on the tires, because the tires are so hot, they stick. So these bits of rubber sort of melt back down, and I'm trying to get it pressed in to show you. They stick as it falls off. So that's just on body heat. So the tires go over and they pick up this rubber. And the more rubber they pick up, the more weight they add on. Now, ideally, that's not going to add that's going to add a couple of grams at max. But it's the difference, because it's better to have an overweight car than an underweight car. So it doesn't matter what the weigh scale says at the end of the race. If it's over that minimum weight, it can weigh 3 tons as far as it cares. It doesn't matter. As long as it's over that 798 kilogram limit, it's fine. This one wasn't. And even with that tyre pickup routine, arguably with 4 tyres, it would have added a couple more. Ideally, it could have added about 500 grams. That's what I would say there. So it would still be a kilogram underweight. But that's what they've got to go pick up, those tyre marbles on the lap. And interesting enough, that the support series here, F3, F2 and Porsches, the top 3 are always allowed to complete the cool-down lap, because the other drivers go into the old pit lane, which is the exit of La Source. But that's not the case here in Formula 1, because their pit lane is on the start-finish straight normally. So they come back up through the wrong way. So it's actually a big issue, because the cars come back into Parc Fermé and the teams have to get the fans on right off, because they are still at race pace. Effectively, it's like retiring the car. So there always is quite a little bit of damage done to like heat sinks and things like that when we finish in Belgium, because you just stop the car straight away. You don't cool it down. Like if you were doing a marathon and you were running like crazy, you would slowly stop and go into a jog and then come into a hold. Imagine running and then just hitting a brick wall, and that's it, you're done. You stopped. You're going to overheat. You're going to faint. You're going to do that. So the cars, they're living things. They have to breathe. So it could be that something's there, but we're just keeping an eye on it. But one thing I do want to add to this, there is no wiggle room with this. If that car is deemed finally underway, I know they're measuring it again now as we speak, and Russell's in with the stewards, as well as the Mercedes team lawyers. But usually this is a slam dunk, because cars can be overweight, but they can never be underweight.
That's just incredible. So, assuming the car is underweight, is there any course of action Mercedes could do? I know there's traditionally appeals, but you said this is slam dunk.
Yeah.
On top of that, Lewis Hamilton is second place. He'll be the new winner, but you'll lose all the points of a double podium. So what would Mercedes be thinking as they're in the stewards, seeing everything? Are they just waiting for the final word from them, or are they strategizing a potential appeal, some sort of argument? What do you think the Mercedes teams will be looking at?
Well, what they can do here is they could argue that Russell's car has had some sort of damage during the race, and so it's an external factor as to the reason why the car's underweight. That's beyond the driver and Mercedes' control. So if things like a side pod has dropped off or something, or there's damage to the floor, something like that, we're expecting the decision in the next 10 minutes. I've just been told as well. So while we're chatting here, we're going to be expecting that decision from the stewards. I understand that Russell has left the stewards. Okay, maybe I should put Sky Sports on my TV pictures. I've still got ITV because I was commentating the touring cars. But yeah, so if they can say it's a loss of bodywork that has dropped the equivalent weight, and if that's the case, then usually they go, okay, it's an external factor that's caused the issue here. For instance, when Lewis Hamilton had his puncture in 2020 at the British Grand Prix and still was able to keep the win, he was below minimum weight because one of his tires exploded, but it's an external factor. So if you add what the tire would be back into the equation, you get over it. So it's that. But Article 4 of the technical regulations is simply titled mass, and it states, Article 4.1, the minimum mass, the mass of the car without fuel must not be less than 798 kilograms at all times during the competitions. That's right from practice 1 all the way to the checkered flag in the race. If, when required for checking, a car is not already fitted with a dry weather tyres, its mass will be determined using a set of dry wet weather tyres selected by the FIA technical delegate. So you can't measure it with inters or wets. It has to be measured with dry tyres because the inters and wets are heavier because they're a larger, heavier compound. So they always sort of bolt them back to what they were. That's only if the race is in a dry weather condition like it is today. So if this race was rain affected, they would measure it with the wet weather tyres because there's a different twinge to the regulation with that. But because this is a dry race, they have to measure it with dry tyres. So, yeah, that's what's happening now. It's going to be completely confusing to see. If they let this go, it's going to be a very risky thing for Formula One to say. Right now, I'm thinking it's going to be a disqualification. So, having a look, Alex Brundle's just put out, it says, extra mass loss of tyre from the one stopper. Hard to believe it's 1.5 kilograms. It is massive. He has pointed out as well, no in-lap here to pick up the rubber. Merck weighed the car with some fuel in it by mistake is theory 2, and that's a long way out. It's a long way out on weight for an F1 team. Yeah. So this is the equivalent of. I'm trying to find a great explanation for you. It's the equivalent of weighing you with all your clothes on and your winter jackets and all that lot, and your scarves and your hats, and then weighing you with no clothes on. You're going to be lighter. That's the thing. So it's trying to have that to be determined into it. But yeah, George is going to be disqualified. And thank God for the Grid Network here, because we all wrapped up a couple of hours ago saying, Russell wins, we'll see you in a month. And it's not the case. So we've all got to go back with egg on our face.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everyone's going to be following this news, and we'll be definitely following it as well, especially if any breaking news starts to come on out. Of course, any minute, for those of you just joined us, there should be a decision from Spa-Francorchamps about George Russell, most likely looking at disqualification. You said George Russell already stepped out, so that was a pretty short time there where I feel, like you said, if there was any wiggle room, they would be still there deliberating, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So it'll be really interesting to see. And of course, a lot of folks are pointing to this one-stop strategy that he had one tire change. That was it. The tire where he was taking care of those tires towards the end of the race. And before we hear anything from the stewards, if this win does stand, how impressive would this be for the Mercedes team to win with one tire? And do you think that just changes things for this Mercedes?
I think it's definitely a good day for Mercedes, even with Hamilton in second place as well. This has given them a bit of confidence. It's the 4th win in a row. Either way you look at it now, it's the 4th win in a row for Mercedes power unit, which is incredible. Because even if Hamilton gets disqualified, Piastri's right there. They had a podium here. First time they've locked out the top 3 as a Mercedes power unit, I think, in a long time. It's got to be over 20, 30 years, something like that. So it's a really strong course for them, if ever, actually. I'm trying to think of the last time. 2014 Australian Grand Prix, I think, was the last time a Mercedes top 3 because we had Rosberg winning the race, didn't we? And then we had Button and Magnussen second and third. So I think that's the last time we've had that top 3 with an engine manufacturer. You've got to really think about that. And that's right at the beginning of the hybrid era as well. But yeah, it's a great job for them. They risked the one stop, but even without that, Hamilton was fast today and he was right up there. I did say in commentary, I'm thinking, is Lewis starting to think that he's made a mistake by going over to Ferrari, just as Mercedes are finding their feet and Ferrari are getting worse? So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Now, I did some calculations here as well, just quickly. Oh dear. Oh, that's why. I was wondering why I was a bit thingy. I've got the green screen still on because I'm on the MacBook, but I'm not on a green screen. So I was wondering why I was looking a bit thingy here. Hang on, there we go. Let's just pop me back. So there we go. I was wondering why I was jolting around. Right, I've done some calculations here as well. It's 44 laps, and we were averaging about 144. Now, he 1.5 kilograms averages out around about 2 seconds per lap. Over the race distance as well. So 2 seconds over the whole race distance. The race was won between the top 3 by 1.1 seconds. And I was just figuring out, because we all couldn't work out in the commentary, how Russell was staying ahead of Hamilton up towards the lines, because Russell didn't have DRS, Hamilton did. And yet every time we got to the end of the Kemmel Straight into the Com, Russell was ahead. And Lewis said on the radio that he was pushing him and he was trying to overtake. So I just wonder if that braking was just a little bit faster for as well, because it was less in the car for Russell, but it does equivalent to about 0.5 per lap over the whole distance of the race, which adds up to what we have, which 2 seconds over the whole race. So it's a big one. This is, if this is an accident, then it's an accident. If this is somehow deliberate, this is a big deal in Formula 1, because 1.5 kilograms may not sound a lot, but as I've just explained to you, it's 2 seconds over the whole race distance. And yeah, okay. The FIA are also allowed to. I've just been from this from Ted Kravitz on his notebook. The FIA are allowed to ask for the tyres to be scraped to remove pickup if needed. So even with the pickup rule, that might not be necessary. Of course, there's no cool down here. So that's from Ted Kravitz there as well, who's coming on his notebook show. Interesting.
All the interesting developments that we're following as this investigation continues. From the chat room, I think Lewis Hamilton can win again in 2024. Lando as well.
Give us 10 minutes.
Maybe in less than 10 minutes, Lewis Hamilton will be awarded his 105th win, I believe. So
yeah,
he would not like to get it this way, but a win's a win for the championship, the points. That's huge. Of course, for everyone tuning in again, George Russell, the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, but under investigation, the car was underweight. And like you said, Josh, it doesn't seem like a lot, but we're talking tenths of a second. Could be the difference between first through fifth. That weight difference would be huge advantage for a team to have. And it'll be really interesting if it is just because of this one tire strategy that apparently worked out, as in they got the win, but really, this has added a lot of drama. And speaking about the drama, I got to say the race, the ending between Russell, Hamilton, Piastri closing in because he had the fresher tires. This was setting up for a great finish. Overall, I think people are talking about it in a good way, but that might change. Overall, though, the race. Before that, we only saw Hamilton pass Leclerc for the lead on track. Pit stop, tire strategy, very much. Do we have breaking news?
Yes, George Russell is disqualified from the Belgian Grand Prix. So I've just got this news in, and you are literally the first to hear it because this is coming in my email box, not via anything else. So you are the first to hear this, everybody watching. It was just 4 minutes ago. It was written, this document, just been published now. Breach of Article 4.1 of the Formula 1 technical regulations. That is, of course, about mass. Car 63 is disqualified from the race classification. All drivers move at one in the classification. I need to put my glass on for this. The stewards heard from the team representative of Car 63, George Russell, the FIA technical delegate, that's Joe Bauer, and the FIA single-seater director and the single-seater director of the FIA, that's Nicholas Tombasi. Car 63 was weighed on the FIA inside and outside scales, with both scales showing the same result of 796.5 kilograms. The calibration of both scales was confirmed and witnessed by the competitor. During the hearing, there you go, it's on us now. During the hearing, the team representative confirmed that the measurement is correct and that all required procedures were performed correctly. The team also acknowledged that there were no mitigating circumstances and it was a genuine error by the team. Now, that's a big one. For them to say that there is no... it wasn't their fault. It was just it was their fault. It was an error. That's a big one. Going into it, the stewards determined that Article 4.1 of the FIA technical regulations has been breached, and therefore the standard penalty for such an infringement needs to be applied. Then it's the normal bit about you can appeal the stewards as well. Going into it, so that's it. George Russell is disqualified. And just a nice little thing here that the driver steward this weekend is Enrique Bernaldi. Just remember, he's had his own faults here at Spa in the past. But yeah, he is disqualified. Kind of knew that was going to happen. Kind of makes up for Mercedes, actually, to Lewis Hamilton, because he's just been quoted, Hamilton, in the written press, saying that you have to put a lot of faith in the people you work with. I put my faith in my strategists. I should be able to lean on them. Did I know I was at risk of getting one stop by my teammate? They didn't tell me that. So Mercedes keeping secrets for themselves, but Lewis Hamilton is your victor of the Belgian Grand Prix, and I think settling a little wound that back in 2008 he had a race deleted from him because of post-race, and now he gets one back. So Lewis Hamilton wins again. 2010, 15, 17, 20, and now 24 victors here in Spa.
Big breaking news, George Russell. Tough break because we were all thinking this is the first time he got 2 wins in a season, his 3rd career win. Now that's gone. The points gain, gone. For Mercedes, double podium, double points, single points. Yeah, it's still Lewis Hamilton winning the race. But overall, considering we're entering this long break, is this sting of the disqualification going to carry over? Or do you think by the next race, the Dutch Grand Prix, they could rebound? Because let's be honest, the Dutch Grand Prix, there's one driver a lot of people are thinking is going to win that race because it's his home country, and he's usually really good there.
Yeah, he really is good, isn't he? And the form he's been in, maybe not, but it'd be nice because we're coming up on 2 months since his last Grand Prix victory when we get to Zandvoort as well. But this is going to sting George because he thought he did a masterclass today. He really did with the one-stop strategy, the tyre whisperer. He called himself with Toto Wolff. He thought, oh, I'm in, brilliant. For him to lose this now due to a team error, that is going to sting an awful lot, and it's going to hurt Mercedes a lot. But they'll lick their wounds, and by the time we come around to Zandvoort, they'll be out for vengeance as always. F1 drivers, like F1 fans, as I've said in the past couple months, they're like goldfish. We can play in 1 minute, and then as soon as you're out racing, it's, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So, yeah, they'll rebound and they'll come back harder at Zandvoort. But I'm really, really feeling for George because this is out of his control. This is a team error. And in my opinion, George Russell is the moral victor at this Grand Prix. But history will show Lewis Hamilton gets his 2nd victory of the season. So, yeah, Mercedes still win, but Hamilton is the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix. And doesn't it always just feel bad? Because this is the one big problem that me and you have talked about several times over the years, Joe. We turn off, what a great Grand Prix. We know who the winner is. And then 3 hours later, you read the newspaper and everything's changed again. It's the only sport in the world where that's going to happen.
Indeed. And even like, I know once before we were on the air when NASCAR had the race winner and 2nd place disqualified, but we were 90 minutes. Here we are a little over 2 hours. Most folks are gone from the track, and this all occurs. It is something where it's going to be really interesting to see what all happens. Can Max win the Dutch Grand Prix? I think he's one of the favorites. Lousy way to lose by a lighter car capital is an advantage and a question. Could Russell have picked up some weight by picking up the marbles? I know you were saying, Josh, they don't have that extra lap as usual. You explained the weight difference. Once again, do you think that could have been at all a difference maker?
500 grams max. That has to be it. Mainly they do it just to ensure they're over the weight limit. In this instance, because it's 1.5 below, I don't think an elephant could have saved them at this rate with putting on that car. It was something really, really wrong by the team, and that means it must have started the Grand Prix underweight as well. And by that I mean the fuel would have been in, but it still would have been 1.5 kilograms lighter than Hamilton's car. So that's a lot. I can't explain it, but I'll tell you what, everybody, if you have got some flour at home or anything and you got some scales, put 1.2 kilograms in and see what it feels like. And imagine carrying that around a 200-mile-an-hour car. It is not a lot, but it drags. As I said, it's 2 seconds per lap over the 44-lap distance. So that is a lot. And the race was won by 1.1 seconds by the top three. So did that give him the oomph in the corners? I think it did, because we were looking for a reason. I think we got it.
Thinking of what you just said, every time that first corner, George Russell seemed to have a much better exit compared to Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri, and that just gave him the advantage to where he was just far enough. Lewis Hamilton had DRS a couple times, but just could not make that dive and move to get the lead. And now it's showing on F1 Twitter, breaking George Russell disqualified, and that is a very sad photo of George Russell. Poor guy, on top of the world 1 minute, thinking we just did something with a one-stop strategy. A strategy Carlos Sainz had said he was trying to make work, but it didn't work. What a tough break for George Russell. And of course, George Russell not going to be scored with the win. Lewis Hamilton's your winner. Oscar Piastri, second place. So he was flying towards the end. I got to ask, we saw that pit stop, his last one, where he went way too hard. The entire pit crew had to readjust their position. 4.4 second pit stop, I believe.
Yeah, really slow. Again, I said in commentary, it's exactly like Lando at the British Grand Prix, just locking up the inside tyres and going straight over and losing out a crucial time. And luckily it didn't cost him for the two Red Bulls and Lando. That was the thing we were worried about. But Piastri got out ahead, and he only lost one position to Leclerc. Yeah. So that was able to be got back quickly, and then he really set the charge after. But if he didn't have that error, he would have been right there for the race win, as he was at the last lap. So that is really, really frustrating. And I've just been reading some of the Twitter comments that have come through. Everyone has been quite civil so far until the Team LH deserve that, find out that Lewis has won. So, yeah, suddenly you don't get any wins since 2021 and you have a championship taken away from you, allegedly. And now you got 2 wins in 3 races. So Lewis Hamilton's back, everybody. And that's going to be amazing. And I'm very much like... we've been on a good form of racing, and I'm a bit disappointed that that's tainted it a little bit. But I think Oscar Piastri, is putting himself up there as a very much a rising star, isn't he? It was a great Grand Prix, and Lando went backwards, and McLaren again seemed to damage him in the race. It was a weird strategy call. You
are correct. I like with Piastri. I'm convinced if he did not a 2-second pit stop, he probably could have gotten now to win, because we know what happened with Russell. But Lando Norris on the start goes wide into gravel, lost a couple positions. Max was still behind him, and then strategy wise, I just feel like the team did not do what they need to do in keeping him ahead, because Max Verstappen stopped. What did they do? Let's stop a lap later, fall behind him. I just don't get it. Do you think the strategy department from McLaren needs to step up? And one point Ben had brought up last week was they have not been in this situation. All of a sudden, after Miami, all of a sudden they seem to be the number 2. Is this part of that effect of why they seem to be one step behind everybody?
I think that's what Lando plays a part in this. Lando very much likes to be in charge of his strategy and decide what tyres he races on. And I think the team are reluctant to tell them no. I think that's what it is, because even Oscar today was asked, do you want plan A or plan B? And he said, plan A, stay with plan A. The drivers are there to drive the car. They know how it feels, but the strategists are there to decide how it runs and what tires to go on. I think there's definitely needs to be Zach Brown needs to take off the kid gloves now. We need the Zach Brown of IndyCar. That's what we need. We can't have him cuddling up with Oscar and Lando and going, it's okay, don't worry, I'll protect you. And then going out and slamming IndyCar drivers left, right, and centre out of his cars. We need a bit of that Zach in Formula One, like ASAP. We need him to take control of the team. I know he's not team principal here, but Zach is massively in charge of McLaren. Andreas Seidel, is. And he needs to... Andreas Stella? Yeah, Andreas Seidel's just left from Sauber. It's been a long weekend. But yeah, Andreas Stella is, and he needs to sort of like get a kick on the backside as well and say, look, this is how it runs. We're a team here. I did say last week in commentary, I agreed with when they said to Lando that they can't win the championship without McLaren. I said this week, maybe Lando had a point and he can win it on his own, because if that strategy keeps on going, it's going to be over very, very quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be going very quickly at all. I think the team overall, they are getting better and better, but they just seem to be missing one part after another part to just get that perfect race, because Belgian Grand Prix, easily one of those McLarens could have been the victor. This one, Oscar Piastri is probably kicking himself just knowing what he did in that pit stop, because that could have been the winning move. And Lando Norris race just seemed to fall apart after that initial start, and the strategy cannot save him. Speaking about Zach Brown and strategy not being a favorite, what's going on with Sergio Perez? Started second, fell back, kept falling back, and we're just saying that Helmut Marko blasted him after the race, saying a completely collapsed performance. This is on motorsport.com, but he said that to a German, Sky Germany, is where he told us, quote, are you convinced Sergio Perez is going to be Max Verstappen's teammate after the summer break?
I said in commentary, I said goodbye, Sergio Perez. I don't see it. The logical thing to do right now is to get rid of Perez, put Tsunoda in the car, because I think he's shown he's ready, and sack Danny Rick as well, even though he got points today. Sorry, Danny Rick. Get rid of Danny Rick and get that junior team back to being a junior team. Liam Lawson is screaming for a seat, as is Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar did an amazing job in Formula 2 this weekend with the feature race win. We'll talk more about that tomorrow in the Encore show. But yeah, it's a junior team. Stop putting the old guys in it. It makes me want to go nuts. So I don't think Perez is going to be in that car at the end of the summer break. I really don't. What was he? Max is now 275. He's on 129 off the top of my head. Started second today, finished 8th. And you can't blame anything for that. I mean, we've had 7 different winners this year, and those 7 cars finished inside the top 7. And the very next car below that was Sergio Perez. I mean, if that doesn't tell you what's wrong, I don't know what will. So yeah, Checo's gone. He has to. He has to. For the good of the team, he has to. Because there is now a Constructors' Championship battle between McLaren and Red Bull. And if Checo keeps doing that, it's ridiculous. He scored an average of 3 points over the last 7 Grand Prix. That's nothing. It's got to change.
And that Constructors' points, it is something where, especially now, Piastri went from 15 points to 18 points. So he gained an extra 3 points. Sergio Perez went from 8th to 7th. That's just a 1-point gain. So McLaren just closing up a little bit more with this, and every point's going to matter. I've always felt that Sergio Perez, we know he is a talented driver. We know he's made the most out of the old Force India teams. His first year was Sauber. Maybe he went to McLaren too early, or maybe the pressure got to him, and now that pressure is getting to him again at a much higher level. Because let's be honest, you got second place in the driver standing. There's no way you're going to get first. The car doesn't seem to be there, and it just seems he is just not performing. And I found it interesting two things. After the race, he was saying, I don't want to answer more questions about speculative about my future. Well, yeah, I don't blame you. I think I would too if I was in your shoes, get tired of answering that. But then before the race, when somebody had asked him, and his response was, it's not like I forgot how to drive. Well,
He did.
that's really telling. And I have to say, I think Liam Lawson, he has to be feeling like I'm going to be somewhere on the F1 grid because Yuki Tsunoda, that could be his opportunity to get into Red Bull, see what happens. Because if he can improve, even if he's just getting points, better qualifying than Sergio Perez, great. But Sergio Perez is just dropping the ball, and the way the Red Bull's looking, that constructors is not going to be an easy one. And I got to ask this when it comes to constructors, Ferrari, they did not have exactly the great day. I mean, poor Charles Leclerc continues the streak of getting a pole. Great. Did you win the race? No. At least he did in Monaco, his one race win, but lost the lead to Lewis Hamilton. That was the winning move now that we think of it. And then you have Carlos Sainz. He tried to make this one-stop strategy work with the hard tire first. That was a bit of a mistake, as we saw. There's no way he could have lasted over 30 laps and then go to mediums. And, well, Ferrari, do you think the car has not evolved enough to stay ahead of McLaren and Mercedes?
I think the car needs an upgrade. I know they're getting one at Zandvoort, which is going to be a big help for them. I also think the strategy needs to be a bit improved there as well. They're falling back into old tactics a bit. I think McLaren are having the same issue. So they need to get on top of that very, very quickly. Otherwise, Red Bull are just going to run away with it. But this is the thing. We've been talking about 4 teams now in the hunt for the championship, and this is great. And when it comes to Ferrari, they're doing the same things that McLaren do, where they always either box a lap late and then they leave one other car out for ages and ages and ages. They are not in a situation they've got to 1-2. They need to be out there quite quickly. Statements just popped in, by the way, from Toto Wolff about today. So I'll wait to finish it. I'll finish this question you asked me. I think Ferrari will come back stronger in Zandvoort with 10 to go. They will not be aiming for the constructors title. They'll be aiming for second, like they did last year. And then everything changes for 2025 because they know the last year of the regulations, everything's going to close up. So Ferrari very much aiming for 2025's drivers and constructors, of course, with Lewis coming on the board. Do you want me to run you through this statement quickly?
Yeah, we're hearing it go off. What's Toto got to say about this?
Toto says, we have taken our disqualification on the chin. We have clearly made a mistake and need to ensure we learn from it. We will go away, evaluate what happened and understand what went wrong. To lose a 1-2 is frustrating and we can only apologize to George who drove such a strong race. Lewis is, of course, promoted to P1. He was the fastest guy on the 2-stop and is a deserving winner. Despite the disqualification, there are many positives we can take from this weekend. We had a car that was the benchmark in today's race across 2 different strategies. Only a few months ago, that would have been inconceivable. We head into the summer break, having won 3 of the past 4 races. We will look to come back after shutdown rejuvenated and with the aim of maintaining our positive trajectory. That was from Toto Wolff, the team principal and CEO of Mercedes.
What can you say? The disappointment, I could hear it in his voice as you read that. Of course, for those just joining us, George Russell, the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, has been disqualified. Car underweight. So Lewis Hamilton is your winner. Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc are second and third round off your podium. The rest of the top 10 now. 4th place, Max Verstappen. 5th place, Lando Norris. 6th place, Carlos Sainz. 7th place, Sergio Perez, who got the fastest lap in. 8th place, Fernando Alonso. 9th place, Esteban Ocon. Not a bad day for him, considering where that team is. And getting 1 point in 10th place, and somebody that's going to be making their case, they belong in the second Red Bull seat. Daniel Ricciardo. Lando Norris. I got to ask this. Do you think in the second half of the season he could keep the championship battle tight with Max Verstappen, or do you think Max Verstappen is going to win the Dutch Grand Prix and then just run away from the McLarens?
I certainly think Max is going to win at Zandvoort. But then we go to Monza, which compromises their car ever so slightly. I think McLaren have definitely got the fastest straight line speed car at the moment. And adding Mercedes as well now into that mix. Going into Singapore, where are we after that? Italy, then we go to Azerbaijan and Singapore. Oh, Azerbaijan is going to be wide open, by the way. I hope everyone's ready for fireworks and red flags that weekend. That is going to be insane. Singapore, that's another tricky one. That's Red Bull's bogey circuit in the last couple of years. So that's more Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren now in there. That could be a three-way fight. Then we head to the Americas. So COTA, I think, is going to be Red Bull and McLaren. That's going to be quite strong. Mexico certainly is a Mercedes-style circuit. They work best, so is Red Bull. That could be strong there. Don't ask me what's going to happen in Interlagos. No one ever knows going into Interlagos what happens. That is the one unpredictable race of the year. Vegas last year, McLaren looked strong, but that changed up. Ferrari were actually strong there as well, but it was a Red Bull 1-2, but now they've closed up. That's unpredictable. Straight line speed should give it to Red Bull, but McLaren are out there. Qatar, again, unpredictable. I haven't had enough data there. Abu Dhabi, that seems to be a Red Bull circuit. So I think looking at that, Lando needs to be in second quite a lot or taking race wins away. I think Max might have this one, but it's all about who's going to have the constructors. I think that's going to be the fight this year, the constructors, and then a big up for 2025 where everything gets congested together and we have hopefully 8 drivers in 4 different teams throwing in. And if Aston get their act together, we could be 9 drivers involved in that, because I don't think Lance Stroll's going to do it. And I mean, I don't know why he's still in Formula 1, to be fair. I've been very harsh with the drivers this weekend, I've been told, but I'm just getting tired of them whinging. 14 races will do that. I'm looking forward to a summer break.
The summer break is going to be good for everyone. Gerald Crabb, no cool down lap at Spa. Tires were gone. We have Ed in the chat room. Mercedes should be quite strong at Zandvoort. McLaren as well. I don't think Max is guaranteed a walkover. Yeah, I don't think a walkover, but I think he's going to still be one of the favorites. Then again, Max technically was the fastest in qualifying at Spa. So who knows if he could have won today without that. Of course, we had the rain. That was a big change. I wonder, because correct me if I'm wrong, we saw Mercedes decide not to run with the upgrades after qualifying. So today's race went different, and they saw, hey, the pace is better, tire wear is better. Do you think there could removing those upgrades have dropped the weight, causing this error for George Russell?
Do you know, I was just thinking that before you asked that question, so I'm glad you did. Yeah, I think it could have actually, because if they've calculated the race distance out to practice 2 on Friday, when nothing happened in practice this weekend, they were all bored out of their minds. So race data on Friday would have accounted for the upgrades, but then Saturday morning they took all the upgrades off. So if I bet you that has played into a fact that they were thinking, oh, the car's going to be slightly heavier, it's going to be this much fuel, this much strategy. So it's a human error somewhere along the line. I think you could have hit the nail on the head there, that it was because they've taken the upgrades off on Friday night, Saturday morning, to make it safe for wet conditions. And they were still fast. So whatever these upgrades bring at Zandvoort, that could put the level playing field up. And it's also crucial to point out that every single time we've seen an upgrade from the Red Bull, they've had 2 in 3 races now, they've been slow and slower. So ever since Adrian Newey stopped rubber stamping the designs, the technical department that everybody said, oh, we've been designing the car for years, Adrian barely did anything. Yeah, how's that going? Only 1 pole, and he had to start from the back of the gun anyway because the engine failed. So yeah, it's not going that well. But it does keep a run going for the first time since end 2009, start of 2010. The last 6 races, the pole sitter has failed to win. So that's another little side pod. I said it in commentary. I think we're going into another golden age. Do you remember the 2009 to 13 sort of age we had? We're going into another one. So I'm quite excited about that. It's finally all the long suffering of one team, then We're just getting back. Now I said it in 2021, but that was 2 teams. Imagine how great it's going to be with 4 teams, 8 drivers fighting for a world championship. It's fantastic. That is the 2010 dream.
Now, you bring up that point. I got to bring up something. In the past, you have said, especially when we had the Red Bull issue with the catering bill was going over, and you kept saying when they have the lack of upgrades, everyone's going to catch up to them. And I'll be honest, there was a time where we were starting to wonder, like, are they really? Well, now it's all happening, Josh. They're catching up, and it looks like this is going to be an exciting second half of the season. When it comes to the first half of the season, how are you going to remember, or how would you rate this first half of the season? Because I think the first 2 races we thought it's the Max Verstappen show again, but I say it's far from it now.
8 out of 10. And I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because we've had 7 winners in 14 races. And that is brilliant. That's akin to what we had in 2012 when we had 7 winners in 7 races. And it's such a high fighting sport now compared to what it was back then. To have every manufacturer win is fantastic. Well, bar Renault is fantastic. So yeah, it's great. 4 of the 5 engine manufacturers have won this season. The only one who hasn't is Renault, and that speaks volumes. But they started the year 19th and 20th, and they still have bad days, but they got points today, and they've been getting points ever since Canada. So they're on the up as well. So I did point out when we heard about this technical thing back in 2022 at the Japanese Grand Prix, I said to it a lot on this show and on all the others we've done here at Grid, I said, just you wait, because that means that in 2023, their car's already designed, so it's no implication there. I said it would affect the 2024 car the most, because that's when they're going to have double restrictions on them and limited aero time, and then throw in that they've lost Adrian Newey. And now look, I was proved exactly right. I know what I'm talking about. I know my onions. I said 2024, they'll have problems, and it's developing exactly like that. Because when you construct a champion, you lose 60% of your aerodynamic time in the wind tunnel. Yeah. They already had that cap, which means that was applied in 2023, but that was when they were designing the 24 car. So again, they couldn't design this year's car right. So it added on. It's always +2. Whenever you have a penalty like that, it's always +2 years, because next year's car is already designed. You've always got to add it on to the following year, and that's 24. So it's brilliant. I love it. It's so nice.
This is shaping up to be quite an exciting second half of the season after the break, because I still remember when, okay, preseason testing's going on. Okay, everyone. And you kept saying, no, it's going to get better. Sure enough, it has. The 2 Ferrari drivers have won. The 2 Mercedes drivers have won. The 2 McLaren drivers have won. We're seeing Haas in the points occasionally. I mean, I think every team except Sauber has scored points, and Sauber is just that's a mess.
And they're bringing in Matteo Binotto. That's a great call, isn't it?
That's going to be something else. So I feel we are seeing the upswing in the competition F1, and I think since Miami, I feel the season has really closed up. It's no longer the Max Verstappen show. We're no longer in the Red Bull world. Sergio Perez is a mess as well too, and yeah, the Netherlands, that could be Max Verstappen, but Italy, Azerbaijan, we call that the Talladega of Formula One for a reason. Singapore, United States, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a phenomenal second half if we keep seeing what we're seeing right now. With that said, before we head off the air, what is your shining moment from the weekend?
Oh, do you know, it's not going to come from F1. It's going to come from F2 and F3. So I might have to pick another one tomorrow. But I think the greatest move I've seen in a very long time in motorsports, Andrea Kimi Antonelli around the outside, full throttle, at Eau Rouge, getting ahead and taking a position is fantastic. He did not lift in the wet, side by side, through Eau Rouge. Brilliant move. That was my move. That was my moment of the weekend, 100%. And reflecting on the first half of the year, what a year. It's going to get better. We're going in now to unpredictable territory in terms of we thought we needed the rule book. It's now been thrown up in the air. and I can't wait. 10 races to go. And yeah, Max may have one hand on it, but it's never over until it's over. And if the upgrades keep going the way they're going, Lando's going to get right up there. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait for Zandvoort. I wish it was next week, but I kind of want, they're all going to have 2 weeks off. Then they'll be back for 2 weeks and start designing. And by the way, no one really has 2 weeks off. Yeah, they all have their devices confiscated and everything, but they all have the software at their home. So everything still gets designed. You can't switch your brain off completely. There'll be like an hour where you wake up in the middle of the night and you thought, oh, I'll just sketch this, I'll just do that, or I'll just polish that a little bit. You can't stop. Even when we have holidays, Joe, I know you do it as well as I do. We always think, Joe, I'm going to add that to the broadcast. I'm going to add that to the script. I'm going to add that to the show. I'm going to do this from now on. Your brain works, and take 2 weeks off, it doesn't work. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Zandvoort. And I think it's a nice place. I know Spa usually restarts it, but I can't think of anywhere better than Zandvoort as a beach resort to kick off the second half of the season in summer. It's perfect.
Perfect way to start it. My shining moment from this weekend, I have to say, it's to the folks that put Spa in this spot where weather, okay, Saturday, it got wet and rainy, but I feel a lot of folks were always talking about the weather situation, especially the fiasco in 2021. What an effort by the organizers and everybody, and everyone that showed up at Spa. It was packed full. This race, I think, has a lot of hype each and every year, since it is one of the first few races Formula One started going to. One of the original circuits, granted, much smaller than the original, much longer circuit. But still, this is an old school track, the longest of the year. Eau Rouge, a lot of great stuff. The racing itself, okay, it wasn't exactly the most thrilling race, but unfortunately, the finish, which got a lot of people talking, well, now that's altered with the disqualification. But at the end of the day, for the fans showing up, for the organizer, and of course, the track marshals that help everyone race safely, be there for everyone's safety, big kudos to them. And I got to say, this first half of the Formula One season, I would say 2 halves. The first part of the season, the Max Verstappen, okay, we're just waiting for him to clinch it. Now it's game on. You got so many drivers, different tracks, some wild card tracks. Azerbaijan, I'm looking at you because that's the biggest wild card I think we have this season. This could be really, I think, for everyone that was just saying, okay, F1's getting boring, I'm tuning out. This is F1 saying, hold on, it ain't over till it's over. And that's the motto usually in motorsports, until you take that checker flag.
One thing I would say is just move Japan back to the second half of the season, because I was looking at it thinking, where's Japan? Oh yeah, we've already had it. I don't like that. We need Japan after Singapore. That's where it should be in the calendar.
It was cool seeing the cherry blossoms at Suzuka. Very pretty, but as a traditionalist, I love the idea of fall in Japan. The championship's on the line, might be decided there or not, and then the weather could be a factor too. So hopefully they'll make that change next year. Now, for everyone tuning in here on the Grid, we hope you subscribe and hit the bell icon, because we are on the air each and every week. This week, just like F1 summer break and the Olympic break for IndyCar, NASCAR, and other forms of motorsport, we've got a simple weekly schedule of Grid Tonight this Wednesday. Then Saturday, August 3rd, Grid Live pre-race for the MotoGP weekend and a brief update on World Rally. And then we're going to wrap it up on Sunday with MotoGP, World Rally, and we also have some IMSA competition as well. So be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and once again, thank you to our investors calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Robin doubled her amount that she invests in the Grid each and every month. We'll read your name at the beginning of every program. And of course, if you do a one-time contribution to Buy Me a Coffee, YouTube Super Chat, we'll thank you on the air. If we don't catch it on the air, we'll thank you on the next episode right here on the Grid Network. And of course, a big thank you to Joshua for making time today. And we encourage everyone, check out JB Motorsports, link in the video description to his channel. For Joshua, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.